Hi, it looks like we're ready to get started.
Hey there. Yeah, sounds good. Let's do it. How's everyone doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. Um, yeah, so I guess we'll start with intros. So, um, if you want, uh, Serge, could you start with like your journey into working on Stakecito, um, you know, and more broadly, even just like for Web3 as well?
Yeah, sure. So, hey everyone. My name is Serge. I'm one of the co-founders of Stakecito. Most of you know Stakecito in relation to Cryptocito, which is one of the largest Cosmos YouTuber. And yeah, I mean, my personal validator journey, so to say, or crypto journey actually started around 2016, 2017. I myself worked for various crypto projects, mostly actually in the Ethereum and DeFi space. So yeah, that's why I'm also super excited about what you guys are building at Nibiru. But generally, I think I sort of realized around 2018 that we kind of missed this whole opportunity of mining coins with like mining bitcoins or mining Ethereum and so on, and this whole alternative consensus protocol basically started to arrive, which is proof of stake. And I found that quite intriguing and interesting. And yeah, Jonas and I, my other co-founder, we started validating in 2019 on a few chains like Celo. We looked into Polkadot. We also validated on Cardano, and this was all pre-Cosmos and actually pre-Cryptocito, so to say. But I met Cryptocito around 2018 in Shanghai quite randomly in a shisha bar. Those of you that know Cryptocito a little bit, he loves shisha, and yeah, it's quite funny that we actually were in Shanghai at a shisha bar, which is I think is super random event, but nevertheless, so he kind of shilled us more or less into Cosmos. He explained us the benefits, the app chain thesis, and yeah, from I think around 2020 to early 2021 we actually started to start validating on the Cosmos app and on other Cosmos chains. So yeah, long story short, this is how we got here.
Awesome. And so, which chains is Stakecito involved with right now?
Right, so we do validate on roughly 30 chains on mainnet, mostly on Cosmos or in the Cosmos ecosystem. There are a few outside of Cosmos. As I said, we also validate on Celo. We don't validate on Cardano anymore, but we do validate, for example, on Near, and we might validate on other non-Cosmos chains in the future as well. And then there are obviously a lot of other testnets and incentivized testnets that we also run. So between 30 and 40 chains in total. Yeah.
How do you guys choose which ones to prioritize or to start validating on when you pick new chains?
Right. That's a good question. I mean, the way I like to explain it usually is we sort of have to view those chains, protocols, or projects almost like from the perspective of a venture capitalist, VC investor. So one of the important criteria for us is obviously that we want to know the team. In the best case, also personally, just to avoid like any potential scams or rocks, because sometimes projects can be look very sophisticated to the outside, but you never know from the inside. So team, obviously their background, how skilled they are. Um, but other than that, I guess generally like the vision and the potential for the product. So there should be obviously some market demand, some product market fit. um, we don't look too detailed into tokenomics, because I feel like this is one of the subjects that many protocols still try to figure out. We obviously look like at the distribution of like how the tokens are distributed, that there's like no crazy share of like VCs holding too many tokens, or a team or something like that. But other than that, this is like less like stronger case for us. And Yeah, I guess those are just the major criteria. It's more or less like a VC, probably not as strict as a VC.
Got it, got it. So what sort of challenges do you face with running a validator business?
Right. I guess there are different or a variety of challenges. Obviously, the most challenging ones are for us, like the obviously the technical ones. Yeah, making sure that we are always that we don't get slashed on any chain, that we always upgrade when there is an upgrade, that we don't get compromised or our private keys get compromised. So a lot of things around security and yeah, basically keeping the chain alive. But other than that, I guess marketing is also a big part. Every validator has to think about, obviously getting new delegations and delegators. And for many validators, this is a difficult point actually, because not everyone, like Cryptocito, for example, starting out with a YouTube channel and building his audience that way, right? So many other validators basically do, for example, development contributions and, for example, like Strangelove Labs or Notional or others. And that way they become more recognized. So marketing is usually also a big challenge, but for us nowadays a little bit less, luckily. And yeah, the last one is obviously also sort of risk management, finances, given the nature of crypto markets and how volatile they are. It's really important to be able to manage your own treasury and staking rewards properly, and know when to cash out and know when to hold the tokens. So yeah.
Yeah, I noticed in particular you guys are pretty active in like governance and explaining your decisions. I don't always see that from other validators.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, obviously, so there are a few other validators that also post their governance decisions, like simply staking, and a few others. But yeah, since Liam joined our team, Liam is obviously also one of the Cosmos content creators. Since he joined our team, he was really pushing this topic of, hey, we need to be more public about how we vote, and we received a lot of good feedback around that. And yeah, some people or some community members do see validators as sort of having a role of, let's say, Senate or senators, right? So this is where the governance comes into play. And other validators, yeah, try not to be too much involved in governance. They just try to keep the chain alive and do whatever is needed from the technical standpoint. But we do think governance is important. We appreciate that Cosmos has the governance module. I think this is actually a really huge, unique selling point. Other chains, do see it as a potential regulatory threat. Let's say, if you look, for example, at Avalanche, they still didn't enable governance, even though they could at any time. So yeah, from that perspective, we think it is, even though it makes things sometimes more slow and there's more drama, but I think that this is a huge USP. This is why we also focus on governance a lot nowadays. Yeah.
Got it. So given your like, you touched on like risk management, and then I think you said you started in 2019, right? So with um, quite a bit of experience with like invalidating and just with Web3 in general. Do you think that your like experience or perspective as a validator has related to or intersected with your experience as like a crypto trader in general, or given you different insights?
Um, yeah, I mean, so I mentioned earlier the topic of finances and risk management, that this is an important yeah, issue or topic for validators. So considering that, one thing that we definitely need to think about is like how do we hedge our own exposure to the crypto tokens, right? Or to the staking rewards. So I guess in a way you need to think about trading or at least some sort of risk management tools, in order to survive the next bear market, let's say, right? Or if you're like not sure when the bull market is coming, maybe you want to hedge in the other direction. So I guess this is also where actually, perps or perpetual swaps come very nicely into play, because this is, from my understanding, one of the only instruments in crypto where you can easily go long and short on positions, right? So yeah, just saying for the fact that we are exposed to volatile assets all the time, we do have to think about how do we manage those assets, and I guess this is where trading comes into play. We have been not that good in the past, to be honest. So we also, I mean, the last bear market has been also quite brutal for us, and I think the more important is it to implement those tools, actually being prepared, for the next cycle, so to say.
Got it. Cool. So I guess we can segue into um, like perps or anything you wanted to talk about for Nibiru.
Yeah, no, sure. I mean, we can talk about the perps, and I think this might be actually a good segue into this topic. And my question would be to you, actually. How do you see the topic of risk management, and do you think perpetual swaps could help us validators actually to handle those bull and bear cycles?
Yeah, I especially so for um, if you take the case of a lot of um, like a lot of people on Cosmos actually use like the default settings for the inflation set for the inflation of their native asset, but in general you may have tokens that are they grow in supply a lot more quickly or like based on the tokenomics. Um, Funny enough, it may be useful to see like if you just uh, looked at it as regular inflation and kind of like pre-computed, oh, how much should I expect to go short on this asset over the course of like a year, um, to not lose money from that effect, right? Like expecting its price to go down because a lot of the supply grows. Um, Taking that sort of analysis into account could probably help validators. Um, so, like you kind of touched on, just being able to speculate long and short on more assets provides like a pretty big utility to you.
Yeah, I agree definitely, and I think we will also, look more into those, DeFi protocols like Nibiru in order to like manage our own portfolio, so to say, in the future. So, yeah,
Cool.
should I go ahead and ask the questions about Nibiru now? Is it cool for you? Or?
Sure.
Yeah, cool. So actually, I forgot to tell that how we met actually unique, right? I mean, we met during the first Cosmoverse, as far as I remember, in Lisbon back then. So and this was it's quite cool actually to see nowadays that how also you have progressed, that you are like working on Nibiru and building this project, and your role was previously at Sommelier, right? How does your
Yep.
previous experience from Sommelier transfers now to Nibiru?
Yeah, I think it was a lot of good context and experience, I guess, with if you have like because of the collaboration with like Strangelove, Occlusion, um, which now some of the team from like Seven Seas that like works on the sellers more directly. It was like a nice mix between like the data science and trading aspect, but then also like the Rust and Go development with like Zaki and team from Peggy JV on protocol development, and then Jack Zample in there as a resource as well. So it's really like I could get any question uh, like sort of deep Cosmos question answered pretty quickly, which probably allowed me to like progress pretty quickly with catching up on the tech stack and the space in general. Um, so that was definitely like a good foothold for like entering Web3 because that's like around when I started working in crypto. So my background before that was mostly in AI. Um, so yeah, I guess just it positioned well for like working on other things in Cosmos too.
No, definitely. I mean, it makes a lot of sense, and having this cross expertise also definitely helps for future projects. And I mean, this is one of the reasons why we want to work with you guys together. Is just like I know your background, I know you personally, and I'm super positive that you guys will definitely deliver deliver whatever you want to deliver, you know. So, and how did the idea of Nibiru came into place actually? So are you one of the co-founders, and how does the team look like? Because I don't know too much about that right now, to be honest. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, so one of the founders, there's also um, some other ones with like Kevin, who's on the spaces sometimes. He's like you know, super senior engineer. He was at has some like prior startup experience and was at like Google for 3 years. Um, we have you may know Jonathan Jimeno was like the director of engineering at Tendermint for a couple of years prior to this. So he is another one of the founders, and then we're we all like develop, but then also do other things. And then the team right now, I think, is about 15 people in total, which includes like you know everything, right? Marketing, BD, bunch of developers mostly though. And I guess as for like the formation or like why to do it, I think we started out wanting to make, funny enough, a uh, we well, I mean, we pivoted away from this idea, but it started out with wanting to make this like uh, stablecoin made up of like CDPs or delta neutral positions. And so at first we're trying to figure out a design for that and got to a point of like running simulations where we found it was just cleaner to separate it where you do like a fully collateralized stable and just make a um, use some of the like first inklings for that perpetual protocol, but make one similar to like Drift V2 or like Perpetual Protocol V2, where um, use like an AMM for the market orders, but then you can basically have a perp market on any asset um, that you can get an Oracle feed for. So what we originally set out to do, it ended up like shifting over time. I think in like the first 6 months. So at first we started building at the beginning of last year, and we're in stealth for a while, and so then didn't like you know expose ourselves to the world until about like July-ish of last year. So that's why it may have seemed like you just kind of like popped in randomly.
yeah, right, right. No, sounds awesome. Sounds really cool. And yeah, let me see. Um, what do we want to talk about? Yeah, maybe we skip the questions of what are perps and what problems do they solve, because I think it's quite simple to break it down into two things. Maybe there are more. So one problem they solve is they enable obviously going long and short on positions, right? And one of the other things is obviously yeah, leveraging or having access to leverage. Do you see
Hmm.
any other things that perps are good for in crypto?
Um, I guess just hedging. So that's like a subset maybe of the first point. Yeah.
Okay, got it. And yeah, how does the current perp landscape look like? I would say generally in crypto, what are like one of the most successful ones, and then maybe break it down to Cosmos, which is probably still a very small space in terms of perps and DeFi in general. You know?
Yeah. So I think in definitely by like this point in time in 2023, there's like it's matured a lot out of initially it was everyone had the same sort of like central limit order book style that was like from the original BitMEX design, right? But now it's like, yeah, most of the major centralized exchanges have it. There's like very different models between like the Oracle based ones like GMX or like Synthetics Protocol, Apollo X, right? That are all doing, within a year, like billions of volume. So that's a um, it's interesting that there's still, even with so many surfacing, the design space is very like open. That people between like UXD, Apollo X, GMX, DYDX, and like synthetics, there's like pretty wildly different designs in certain ways. Which I guess that just comes down to like how you implement funding and actually price the assets, as long as it follows like a few key rules that like define it as a perp. It's pretty flexible, and you know you don't have to use a clob. You don't have to use base your price off of like the Oracle, things like that. But I guess more in Cosmos, I think it's like still budding. Levana has been pretty exciting in that, people have been starting to use it early. And
Right.
I also like that it's bringing like Cosmos assets in particular to be more like it's some of its most popular pairs. Normally you just see people trading like BTC and ETH in other places.
Right, right. On your testnet right now, the markets that are available are Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? Those are the two assets that I saw.
Yeah, we just turned on a couple pairs for like the testnet for people to try it out, but basically it's that anything that's has a feed for the Oracle, we can like initialize a market for. So we didn't turn on these others, but I think there's like, ADA and BNB and kind of like high market cap tokens like that. We'll probably have some of those early on.
Nice, that's cool. And I mean, like what I saw in Levana, it was mostly Cosmos assets that they started with. Do you guys want to be more broad? You want to capture the broader market? Do you think that's the difference to Levana, or is it at the end of the day probably Levana and Nibiru? You both will have access to all the markets, and then there will just like other product differences and UI UX differences or something like that. Or how do you see, how do you yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
So I mean, yeah, we use different models for pricing in general. So there will always be that like difference, even with like, DYDX or Helix on Injective, Levana. Um, these are like they're all different models. But then I guess in terms of asset diversity, yeah, we would aim for something more similar to like Gains network over time, where, you know, of course there would be Cosmos assets, but then that wouldn't be the only focus. It'd be more kind of general purpose. So you'd include like most top assets that people want to trade, maybe from like centralized exchange or other things that people have demand on, from like, either expressing it in the community forum or what have you. And then eventually also to have like commodities and real world assets or like, um, almost like Forex pairs, things like that, I think could be really cool. Basically, so that like within IBC, you could speculate on, you know, anything you want, right? Like corn, soul, whatever.
Yeah, that's
So that's kind
that's
of a goal for us.
that's very that's very interesting. You know, because it is a very large market just in TradFi, right? And why? So I know that Comdex initially wanted to launch those commodity markets, but they haven't done it yet. I'm not even sure why. I heard like the regulatory concerns or reasons are involved, or maybe even some other reasons. I'm not sure. How do you see that? Like, how realistic is it that Nibiru will launch commodities? Yeah, early on or this year.
I don't know if it'd be this year. I mean, right now the main focus is just like finish up the stuff for this last phase of ITN, which is like a trading competition, and then that goes for a few weeks, and then we'll do like the main net, right? Um, pretty soon this year, and then after having that done successfully, I think we do have like quite a few features on like the roadmap. We just want to get to like improving the liquidations, um, things like that. But I don't know. I definitely think like it's basically only limited by what can we add feeds for in the price feeder. But
Okay.
yeah, the nice thing with the Oracle module is flexible enough that it is pretty easy to expand it with new assets and then add new trading pairs.
Okay, got it. Makes sense. And yeah, so you mentioned already that you plan to launch this year, right? So can you tell me the rough
Hmm.
timeline and roadmap for Nibiru? Like, is it Q4 mainnet or yeah?
Yeah, so it'd be Q4. So the if we can, like, if it's possible to do it in October, that'd be great. But I can, challenges with launching a mainnet. If it's like November, that's not the end of the world. But that's like roughly the timeline we're aiming at.
Right, and you probably have to do a few more audits, or is that already done? I think I saw something, but
Yeah, we did two so far. That covered most of all of the Oracle and like perps and everything. We might do like a code arena one like as a last step, just for like any new changes we had to the chain. Um, but yeah, like we went through audits already. That went pretty well.
Okay, cool. No,
That was with Zelic. Yeah.
also, I actually met them recently in Atom Berlin. I didn't know that they also provide audits for Cosmos, but apparently they're active as well. So no, that's really cool. And so let's talk about Nibiru protocol a little bit more. What is it? I also saw that you have the stablecoin and USD, right? And what is the general vision for Nibiru? Do you want to become like sort of, I don't know, similar to say where you have like various DeFi projects and products launching, like a sector specific chain, or what is the vision for Nibiru in general? What kind of products do you want to launch, if any?
Yeah. So I think part of it is, um, well, some of the core apps you're talking about, like NUSD, the Nibi perps, that's like dApps we work on as a core team, right? But then uh, there's also this element of bringing in, other projects to build like a plethora of dApps that we didn't foresee. So, um, in a sense, you have like maybe this vertically integrated set of a few dApps which we're developing on, but those aren't meant to exist without like competition. Of course, if someone wants to build like um, a similar kind of DEX, but it uses like a different model, like we totally would welcome that. There's a similar module to, like what Juno and Evmos have, where like you get paid half of the gas for being like the contract deployer, things like that. So really in the hackathon, we kind of saw that as there are projects from, of course, DeFi, but then there's also like gaming and social fi and other like privacy, other things like that. Um, so I guess we'll kind of see over time, like what people decide makes them like are most interested in building. But I think it would be cool to see like maybe gaming take off more in Cosmos. But I know we as a team aren't developing anything like that, but maybe just the tools to do so. So you could see that if we just put like, a few different random number feeds in the Oracle, it updates like every few blocks and they're only about a little over a second long. So that could support a bunch of applications. If you put sports odds into the Oracle, now people can do betting for those markets, right? So I think there's um, it's almost like this is these steps are like a foundation to get like users and liquidity, and then you want to see people build a variety of different things from there.
Right. Do you think something like, markets, perp markets for NFTs could exist, or does it exist maybe already?
I know that exists on I think one of the ETH layer twos, but that's I haven't heard of that in Cosmos yet. But yeah, that's another use case, for example.
Right, right. Yeah. Does liquidity play a role for those assets as well? I mean, or how?
I don't know. I don't know much about NFT perps, to be honest.
Okay.
But
Yeah, me neither. I'm just,
yeah.
just thinking about some crazy ideas here. But no, this sounds really exciting. And so you mentioned that there are already projects that build something or like looking into something. So you guys have a grants program that closed recently, right? So this is also part of your go-to-market strategy, I guess, onboarding new developers and
Hmm.
projects. Um,
Or we did a Dora Hacks hackathon. So the grants like continue on, indefinitely. We'll probably put some like just so people have more descriptions of like requests for protocols of like ideas we have that teams could work on. Um, but yeah, talking to like uh, clubs with like clubs at colleges, right? Like the blockchain clubs, and then also the hackathon got a lot of projects like mixed into the network or applying for grants. But yeah, the there's definitely like got the ball rolling more so after like June or July. So now there's I guess like roughly like a dozen that look pretty promising.
yeah, right, right. And I guess it always takes some time to find also some good projects and builders that want to stay, right? But it's like an ongoing process from my experience. But it's
Yeah,
good, like providing funding is always a good way to sort of also build your own community and core devs that support the ecosystem. Um, so you also talked about NUSD. How is the NU or how will
hmm
NUSD be collateralized at the end of the day? Or yeah.
yeah. So the idea there is to basically there was like a V0 design we went through that was like, oh, you can make something very similar to like Frax that's like set up here on IBC. Um, Over time shifted to something that's maybe serves more utility. I think is for NUSD to just be something meant to solve your wrapped asset problem. So you encounter this issue where if I have like say uh, Atom on the hub and I move it to Osmosis versus if I go Atom to Nibiru then Osmosis, those are two different denominations, right? Um, so one thing you can uh, so you encounter the same thing if you have like a lot of bridge connections. So let's say I have like Noble USDC, I have Axelar USDC, and then maybe I'm connected via centralized exchange, right? Those integrations, and then you also have like um, I don't know, the Cellar bridge or wormhole, right? So you have like all these different versions of like the same asset, and that's just for Circle. If you're adding in like Tether, like potentially Dai or other things like that, it can be get kind of complex there, especially when you're quoting in using a specific stable coin, right? On like perp markets or any other application. So something that could be useful is just use you could pair them in a stable swap such that basically your token's always at like 100% collateralization, but if there's more demand for a certain bridge, it slightly, that version of the asset becomes a little bit more expensive. And so this proxy asset to represent the other stables, that can be NUSD. And in that way, you don't have to think of like you can kind of just think in dollars or think in euro. You don't have to think like of the eight different versions of it
Yeah, makes
from different bridges.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sometimes scary if you think about like where the USDC actually is coming from or the particular stable coin, right? And you never know what the bridge risk might be or the cascading effects from that at the end. But yeah, but I'm not sure. Did I miss actually like what will be the assets that collateralize and USD? I'm not sure if I caught.
Oh, so mostly just yeah, probably just the centralized stablecoin. So like initially it would be like Circle and then probably Circle and Tether
I
over
see.
time.
I
But
see. Okay, makes sense. All right, and I mean one of the advantages is then NUSD, as you just mentioned, is just one stable coin that doesn't have to be bridged across other bridges because it just like travels through IBC, I guess, through the Cosmos. Um,
yeah,
yeah,
and then you could always like reclaim it for yeah, like let's say you're now wanting to exit to I don't know, KuCoin or Binance or what have you. You would just, you know, withdraw like basically redeem the NUSD for yeah, actually that makes sense. So if you wanted to go across like Wormhole, just redeem it for that version and then use that bridge or so kind of that you can switch between the versions a little easier.
okay, I see. Yeah, what are some other products that you plan to launch on Nibiru or that you're maybe secretly working on or not secretly?
That's mostly it right now. I think a lot of it right now has been providing support to like projects building in Cosmosm that are coming onto the chain. Um, yeah, the perps, spot, um, the Oracle is also a lot of work, right? And
Exactly.
then
No, no,
just
no.
providing
It's
utilities for everyone else to build, right?
right, right. No, that's already a lot. I mean, I know from my personal experience that just focusing on one product can actually be already quite a lot. But you guys are working on several things here. So yeah, I think I just have like maybe one or two questions left, and then maybe I don't know. We can see if there are any other community questions. But I saw that liquidations are actually handled by the protocol itself. And one of my questions is there a way for Nibiru to have something like Orca and Kujira where you can manually basically do the liquidations and earn some money on the side as a DeFi user?
Hmm. Yeah, that's actually how it works right now. So you can the liquidate transaction, um, you can send it and specify like multiple positions, and then let's say like you send off 10 and only seven of them are valid, it'll only do the seven valid ones and they'll still go through. Um, so, and yeah, there's a reward for accurately sending the liquidations. So it would, like eventually we have this design for something where you can build it into the binary where the liquidations just happen automatically, like in the end block hook. But right now it's open. You can set up a node, track the positions, and like profit off of submitting liquidations. And it's good to do
Right.
that because it makes it more safe for other people too.
And I guess the way you do it right now is basically, I mean, you need to have some sort of you need to have some developer experience. I guess there's no UI to do it, right? Is that planned? Maybe some point.
Oh yeah, yeah. There isn't a UI. But under the hood, we're just running our own thing where you listen on the WebSocket, spin up a node, and then track all the positions in a database, and then um, you know performing the liquidation similar to you know how you would on another protocol at scale. But having other people do that would definitely be useful.
Right, right, right. No, no. I mean, it makes sense. I think this is like how most of the projects are handling this. But I just like the solution of Kujira, this product called Orca, where you can do it manually, and you don't need to be a developer to basically have access to the same opportunities, which is also a very cool proposition, I guess.
Yeah, that could be good. It's mostly like building a front end for it, I think.
Right, right. Cool. And yeah, I guess one or two more questions from my side. Why is the project called Nibiru? I mean, it's a pretty cool name. I read it, but maybe you can explain it very briefly.
Yeah. So um, I think one was just it's we liked the interpretation of it from like Babylonian astronomy, and then even for its like planet X roots, where you have it as this you know planet that like collides with Earth or whatever. That's a there's this concept of like a Nibiru cataclysm, so we could think of that as like you know us entering the space, or maybe the Earth is tradfire or something. So we liked both of those interpretations, but um, yeah, it seems like a good name from the astronomy as this like crossing or point of transition, and it turned out there weren't like many like almost any name you could think of for a project. There's probably a crypto project that has it. I didn't see a project that was called Nibiru, so that was also kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
No, I like the name. I mean, it's short, it's easy to remember. I like the connection to astronomy or cosmology, so to say. And also, isn't Nibiru the ninth or one of the missing planets, or the planet that apparently exists, but no one really knows? Planet X or something
yeah,
like
like
that.
it's supposed to be on the other side of the sun with the same path as Earth, or like whatever. I mean, that's total nonsense, but yeah, people do say that.
Yeah, but the story sounds amazing, nevertheless. No. Uh, yeah, really, really awesome. Do we have anything else? Yeah, I think that's mostly it, to be honest. Should we see if there are any community questions, or do you have something from your side unique? Something left?
Um, yeah, I don't have any questions right now. I guess we can see if someone wants to um, ask one live.
Yeah, feel free to send a request, or just to comment, under the space under the tweet. But if you are shy to speak, that's also fine. I guess we covered a lot of points, and I'm super stoked and super excited to see Nibiru coming to mainnet. And will you guys be at Cosmoverse, by the way?
Um, I think at least one of us will be there. But yeah,
Okay, cool. I see there
Hold on,
was.
we have a speaker.
Sorry, go ahead. Someone is requesting, right? Hey, Airdrop Empire, do you have a question for us?
Thanks. Thanks for keeping me in the loop. I just wanna know what do you discussion here, guys. Just join. What the what the discussion here about what?
Yeah, sorry, I'm not sure if I understand your question, to be honest. Yeah, we were just trying to get people up that have a question about Nibiru or anything that we discussed today. So,
Oh, Nibiru, I see.
all right, I guess he has no question.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. So we're also hitting our 45 minutes mark. So
Yep. I guess we can head out. Thanks for joining and chatting today.
yeah, thanks. This was awesome. And yeah, let's repeat this some point, and let's hang out at Cosmoverse.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.